All right, now let's take you back to our top story. Some schools affected by the floods in KZN have been closed today. Let's speak to the Education MEC in the province, Kwazi Mshengu, about what's happening there. Mr. Mshengu, thank you very much for your time on all angles. We saw that press release where you were telling schools to use their discretion on whether or not they will allow schooling to continue. How is it looking today? Are all schools not functioning?
Well, the situation is bad in the province. The report we have is that over 500 schools are not operating today, and we think it's a safe thing to do because of the flooding that is taking place in the province. We have also received a report that thus far 97 schools have been confirmed to have been damaged by these floods. Obviously, we're expecting the number to grow because some schools are not accessible. But the most depressing one is that there is a school in the following where learners and educators have been trapped in their school since yesterday. We have been working around the night to try and rescue them. The police have not been able to assist us because the equipment that they have could not assist. We tried the military since yesterday. It's only an hour ago where it was confirmed that 2 military aircraft have left Limpopo to KZN, but we have since also engaged Discovery, the private sector, to help us. And I'm told that as we speak, 1 aircraft has been confirmed to have landed in Durban to start the evacuation processes.
So, MEC, you say 500 schools are not functioning today. How many schools are there in KZN in total?
In KZN, we have 6,148 schools. That's in total, but over 500 are not functioning. And the largest number of those schools that are not functioning are in Durban, which is the area that is badly affected by these floods, as well as Ilembe and King Cetwayo, Umgungundlovu and Uchungela. So those are the areas that are mostly affected by the floods.
Let's discuss a little bit further the fact that that story that you just told us about some of the pupils and teachers having to be kept at school since yesterday because they could not move out, obviously because of the flooded roads, etc. Have you been in communication with them? How are they getting fed? Are they using probably the scheme to be able to feed everybody who's there?
Yes, but also the neighbors are also assisting, although to a limited extent. There are some neighbor households that were able to take some learners for overnight, but some remained in the school as well as the educators. It's quite a bad situation, but we are now comfortable that at least because 1 aircraft has been confirmed to have landed, we'll now be able to start with the evacuation procedure. So it's the weather is also cold. You imagine being in a school overnight without really necessary food, without proper things to sleep on. It's quite a depressing situation. But at least there was no life lost in that particular school, and we are happy that the evacuation processes are underway.
You know, you said 97 schools have already been damaged, MEC. I remember earlier this year, the Minister of Basic Education as well as the DG there mentioning thousands of schools that were affected by flooding in the past year or so, KZN, the Northwest included. So I imagine that this is going to add even more to the budget of having to fix the schools that were already damaged due to flooding earlier this year and last year.
Indeed, it's going to put our budget under tremendous strain. Already there's a huge backlog of schools that were storm damaged, but which we have not been able to basically fix because of the shortage of funds. In fact, the schools that are still in the list of being fixed, there are over 400 in the province of KwaZulu-Natal that were damaged in the past. So now we are going to add these 97, which we have confirmed up to now. But as I said, we are expecting more in terms of reports because once the weather clears up, some of the schools will now be accessible, and that's when we know what damage have they suffered. So indeed, there will be more strain on our budget, given the fact that we don't budget for such disasters. So we'll have to find a way of getting whatever we can get in terms of funds. One, to put up emergency plans such as deployment of mobile classrooms, to make sure that learners do not lose teaching and learning time while we mobilize more funds to repair the schools.
Shouldn't you then change the plan? I mean, KZN, as we know by now, is quite prone to flooding and schools do get damaged. So you say that you don't necessarily budget or plan for such disasters. Shouldn't you change that to actually planning for them?
We would love to, but the budget that we have doesn't even permit for that. You will remember that last year we had to get under discussions of even possible retrenchment of educators precisely because of insufficient funds. That case is not yet completely closed, so we're still trying to reprioritize within what we have on the baseline to save the educators. There are other schools that we need to repair. There are new schools which we need to finish and build to make sure that every learner in KwaZulu-Natal has access to education. So it's a desired thing, but the resources do not permit.
Why isn't there, why is the budget not enough? I mean, as far as we understand, every time there's any budget, whether it's at national level or provincial level, every time the MEC of Finance or the Minister of Finance announces budget, health and education get the biggest chunk.
Well, we're the biggest system of education in the country. We have 90,000 educators, 2.8 million learners, as I said, 6,148 schools. So the budget that we get, 92% of it, if you remove grants, 92% of it goes to the salaries of the employees. Then we are left with about 8% to attend to all these competing interests, including the norms and standards that we have to pay to these 6,148 schools, the building of new schools, the technology that we want to install in our schools, and quite a number of other factors that are necessary to bring about quality education. So it's really not enough, and that's the point that we've been making over years.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. That was KZN Education MEC Kwazi Mshengu.